The sun rises slowly over the Abará Valley, casting a golden glow across the green mountains that cradle Medellin. Wisps of morning mist drift between the hills before fading beneath the growing warmth. Roosters crow from hidden courtyards, church bells echo across the valley, and battered buses rumble through narrow streets, leaving trails of diesel fumes behind them. The rich aroma of freshly brewed Colombian coffee escapes from open windows, mixing with the scent of damp earth after an overnight shower. Market stalls come to life as vendors arrange bright piles of fruit while children race through the streets, laughing as they chase a worn football across cracked pavement. It is a beautiful place to grow up. Yet beneath its beauty, Colombia is a country carrying deep scars. Violence has become an accepted part of daily life. Political rivals fight for power, armed groups roam the countryside, and many families learn that survival often depends upon keeping their opinions to themselves. News of murders, kidnappings, and disappearances travels quickly through towns and villages, becoming part of ordinary conversation. For many Colombians, the future feels uncertain. On the 1st of December 1949, in the nearby town of Rio Negro, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria is born into this troubled world. His father, Abel, earns a living as a farmer, spending long days working the land beneath the hot Colombian sun. His mother, Hermilda, teaches at a local primary school and believes education offers her children the best chance of escaping poverty. Before long, the family settles in Envigado, just outside Medellin, where Pablo spends most of his childhood. Those who know him describe an energetic boy with a quick smile and an even quicker tongue. He enjoys making friends, dislikes authority, and rarely accepts being told that something cannot be done. While other children dream of becoming footballers or pilots, Pablo becomes fascinated by something much simpler: money. He notices the sharp divide between rich and poor wherever he goes. Elegant houses stand only minutes away from crowded neighborhoods built from brick and corrugated metal. Expensive American cars glide through wide avenues, while children his own age walk barefoot through muddy streets. Medellin is growing fast, but opportunity does not arrive equally for everyone. As Pablo enters his teenage years, he begins looking for easier ways to earn money. Stories from friends and neighbours suggest he sells counterfeit lottery tickets and buys stolen goods before selling them for profit. Other accounts claim he steals old gravestones, polishes away the names and sells the stone again. Whether every tale is true remains uncertain. Like many infamous figures, Pablo's early years quickly become surrounded by myth. What is clear, however, is that he develops a reputation for spotting opportunities where others see only obstacles. Each small success strengthens his confidence. Around him, Colombia is changing. Smuggling is becoming increasingly profitable as contraband cigarettes, electronics, and other imported goods pass quietly across borders. Criminal networks grow larger each year, finding new ways to move illegal products through mountains, jungles, and coastlines that are almost impossible to police. Young men with ambition begin to notice that crime can offer rewards far beyond anything available through honest work. Pablo watches carefully. He listens more than he speaks, studies the people making money, and learns that influence often comes not through education or hard work, but through fear, loyalty, and cash. Friends discover that he is generous when treated well, but quick to remember anyone who crosses him. Even as a young man, he possesses a confidence that draws people towards him. As evening falls over Medellin, music spills from cafes onto the streets. Families gather outside their homes to escape the day's heat, while the lights of the city begin to sparkle beneath the surrounding mountains. It feels like a city full of promise, yet hidden beneath that promise is an expanding criminal underworld waiting for ambitious young men willing to take enormous risks. Pablo Escobar is becoming one of them. Before long, A new commodity begins moving quietly through South America. It is small, white, and almost unknown outside wealthy circles, yet it promises unimaginable profits for those prepared to traffic it. Few people realize that this powder will soon transform Colombia, reshape organized crime across the globe, and turn one young man from Medellin into one of history's most notorious criminals. Night settles over Colombia's northern coastline, but the darkness does little to slow the activity. Beneath a sky scattered with stars, small aircraft wait on rough dirt runways carved from the jungle. Their engines cough into life one by one, propellers slicing through the humid air. Men move quickly beneath dim floodlights, loading tightly wrapped packages into cramped cabins, while lookouts scan the tree line for any sign of trouble. The smell of aviation fuel hangs above the clearing, mixing with damp earth, sweat, and tobacco smoke. Within minutes, the aircraft disappear into the night, climbing north towards destinations known only to their pilots. For Pablo Escobar, this is the future. The small scams of his youth no longer satisfy him. Smuggling stolen goods and contraband has provided useful experience, but the profits are limited. He wants something bigger, something capable of making him richer than anyone around him believes possible. He finds it in cocaine. During the early 1970s, demand for the drug begins rising rapidly in the United States. Once seen as an expensive luxury, cocaine is becoming fashionable among wealthy professionals, musicians, and celebrities. Every shipment arriving safely across the Caribbean is worth many times more than the cost of producing it, creating opportunities unlike anything the criminal world has seen before. Pablo wastes little time. He begins building relationships with producers in Peru and Bolivia while organizing transport across Colombia. Light aircraft become the cartel's greatest weapon. Flying low over mountains and open water, pilots avoid radar before landing on hidden airstrips throughout Central America and the Caribbean. From there, the cocaine continues north, eventually reaching American cities, where demand seems almost endless. Each successful flight brings astonishing profits. Soon, Pablo is buying more aircraft, hiring experienced pilots, and expanding his network of trusted partners. Warehouses replace small storage rooms, accountants replace street hustlers, and armed guards replace the handful of friends who once protected him. The operation grows so quickly that it begins to resemble a multinational company, although its product remains entirely illegal. The organization soon becomes known as the Medellin Cartel. Its influence spreads across Colombia, bringing wealth to some and fear to many others. Farmers, mechanics, drivers, and pilots all find work connected to the growing trade. Entire communities begin depending on cartel money, while local officials discover that refusing a bribe is becoming increasingly dangerous. Pablo develops a simple philosophy. Everyone has a price. Those who accept his money are rewarded generously. Those who refuse often disappear. Violence becomes another business expense, used whenever negotiation fails. Rival traffickers are eliminated, informants are hunted down, and anyone threatening the organization quickly learns the cost of standing in its way. Despite the bloodshed, Pablo carefully cultivates another image. He speaks easily with ordinary people, remembers names, and rewards loyalty. To many living in poor neighborhoods around Medellin, he appears less like a criminal than a man who understands their struggles. His fortune grows rapidly, yet he never forgets the value of public support. Money begins arriving faster than it can be counted. Bundles of banknotes fill warehouses and safe houses across the city. Employees spend entire days counting cash, while rats chew through forgotten stacks hidden inside walls and barns. The cartel earns millions of dollars every week, and Pablo's wealth soon reaches levels almost impossible to comprehend. But fortunes built this quickly rarely remain hidden. Police investigators begin noticing unusual financial transactions. Journalists start asking uncomfortable questions about the young businessman, whose wealth seems to expand overnight. Governments on both sides of the Caribbean recognise that cocaine is no longer the work of scattered smugglers, but of a powerful criminal empire stretching across continents. Pablo Escobar has achieved exactly what he always wanted. He is rich beyond imagination. Now he wants something far more dangerous: power. Morning sunlight washes across the rolling hills of Hacienda Nápoles, where peacocks wander through neatly trimmed gardens, and giraffes stand silently beneath towering palm trees. The distant roar of lions drifts across the estate, while elephants splash in man-made lakes. Gardeners trim hedges, helicopters land beside private buildings, and luxury cars glide along tree-lined roads. The smell of freshly cut grass mingles with tropical flowers and expensive cigars. It feels less like the home of a criminal than the estate of a king. For Pablo Escobar, this is exactly the point. By the early 1980s, his fortune is almost beyond imagination. The Medellin cartel controls much of the world's cocaine trade, earning millions of dollars every day. So much cash pours into Colombia that accountants struggle to count it all. Bundles of banknotes fill warehouses, hidden rooms, and abandoned buildings, while millions more disappear each year through damage, damp, and hungry rats. Pablo spends freely. He buys vast estates, private aircraft, luxury homes, and one of the largest private zoos in the world. Yet he also understands that wealth alone cannot guarantee loyalty. Across Medellin's poorest neighbourhoods, he pays for football pitches, schools, and housing projects. Families who have little hope of escaping poverty suddenly find themselves living in new homes built with cartel money. To many, Pablo is not simply a trafficker. He is a benefactor who succeeds where the government has failed. His popularity encourages him to seek something money alone cannot buy: respectability. In 1982, Pablo wins election as an alternate member of Colombia's Congress. Dressed in smart suits rather than open-necked shirts, he walks through government buildings, hoping to reinvent himself as a legitimate businessman and politician. For a brief moment, it seems possible that one of the world's richest criminals might successfully enter public life. The illusion does not last. Journalists begin investigating the source of his fortune, while Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla openly accuses him of being a drug trafficker. Pablo is forced from politics, humiliated before the nation, and stripped of the respect he craves. He never forgives those he believes are responsible. From that moment, compromise gives way to war. His message becomes brutally simple: plata or plomo, silver or lead. Accept the bribe or face the bullet. Police officers, judges, politicians, and customs officials all receive the same choice. Some accept enormous sums of money, others refuse, knowing the decision may cost them their lives. Assassinations become terrifyingly common as gunmen on motorcycles weave through Medellin's crowded streets before disappearing into traffic moments after pulling the trigger. The violence spreads beyond individual targets. Car bombs explode outside government buildings, shaking entire city blocks. Thick black smoke rises above Medellin and Bogota. Shattered glass rains onto crowded streets. Innocent people are caught in explosions intended to frighten politicians into abandoning the fight against the cartels. Fear becomes part of everyday life. Parents worry whenever children leave for school, while journalists wonder whether each article might be their last. In 1989, the campaign grows even darker. A bomb destroys Avianca Flight 203 shortly after takeoff, killing everyone on board. Pablo believes a presidential candidate is travelling on the aircraft, though he is not. The attack horrifies the world and marks a new level of brutality, proving that almost no act is beyond the cartel's reach. Yet even as Colombia mourns its dead, Pablo continues presenting himself as a champion of the poor. Crowds still gather to cheer him in neighbourhoods where his generosity has transformed lives. To supporters, he remains a man who shares his fortune. To his enemies, he has become the face of terror itself. The contradiction cannot last forever. The Colombian government strengthens its campaign against the cartel, while the United States increases pressure for Pablo's capture and extradition. The empire that once appears unstoppable is now surrounded by powerful enemies determined to bring it down. For the first time in many years, Pablo Escobar begins to realize that even kings can fall. Morning fog clings to the mountains overlooking Medellin, drifting silently through pine trees and across the stone walls of La Catedral. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the scent of wet earth after overnight rain. Birds sing from the surrounding forest, while armed guards stand watch behind steel gates. At first glance, it appears to be a peaceful monastery perched high above the valley. Only a closer look reveals satellite dishes, luxury vehicles, and heavily armed men moving confidently through the grounds. This is not an ordinary prison. It is Pablo Escobar's prison. By 1991, years of bombings, assassinations, and international pressure have pushed Colombia to breaking point. Rather than continue a war that claims thousands of lives, the government reaches an extraordinary agreement. Pablo will surrender on one condition. He will serve his sentence in a prison that he designs himself, protected from extradition to the United States. The result is La Catedral. Inside, life bears little resemblance to imprisonment. There is a football pitch where matches are played beneath the mountain sun, a bar stocked with expensive whiskey, comfortable bedrooms, fine food, and regular visits from family, friends, and trusted associates. Music echoes through the halls late into the night, while business meetings continue almost uninterrupted. From behind the prison walls, Pablo still controls much of the Medellin cartel, issuing orders through loyal messengers as though nothing has changed. For a time, the arrangement suits everyone. The bombings largely stop, the violence briefly eases, and Colombia enjoys a fragile sense of calm. Yet the peace is built on illusion. Pablo remains as ruthless as ever, and La Catedral is still the headquarters of one of the world's most powerful criminal organizations. The illusion collapses in July 1992. Suspecting two cartel associates, Fernando Galeano and Gerardo Moncada, of hiding millions of dollars from him, Pablo summons them to La Catedral. They enter believing they are attending a meeting. They never leave alive. Both men are tortured and murdered inside the prison, their bodies later hidden on the grounds. The killings shock the Colombian government. Officials finally accept what many have suspected all along. Pablo is not serving a sentence. He is running an empire from behind walls built to protect him. Plans are made to transfer him to a genuine high-security prison where his influence can finally be broken. But Pablo hears the rumours first. On a cold July night, wrapped in thick mountain fog, he slips through a gap in the security surrounding La Catedral and disappears into the darkness with a handful of loyal bodyguards. By dawn, the world's most wanted drug lord has vanished. The hunt begins immediately. Elite units of the Colombian National Police form the Search Block, a task force dedicated to capturing Escobar. Helicopters thunder across the mountains, while soldiers search villages, forests, and abandoned farms. American intelligence agencies, including the DEA, provide surveillance equipment, intercepted communications, and technical support. Each day, the circle grows tighter. Then another enemy emerges. A shadowy group calling itself Los Pepes appears almost without warning. Made up of rival traffickers, former allies, and people seeking revenge, they begin hunting everyone connected to Escobar. Safe houses are burned, businesses destroyed, and cartel members murdered in the streets. Pablo watches as the empire he spends years building begins collapsing piece by piece. Life on the run is nothing like life at Hacienda Nápoles. Gone are the helicopters, lavish dinners, and endless celebrations. Pablo moves constantly between cramped apartments, remote farmhouses, and hidden city safe houses, rarely sleeping in the same place twice. Curtains remain closed, lights stay off. Every passing car, every barking dog, and every ringing telephone could signal disaster. His circle of trusted allies grows smaller with each passing month. The man who once commands an army now depends upon a handful of exhausted bodyguards. Still, one thing matters more than survival: his family. Despite every warning, Pablo cannot resist speaking to his wife and children. Their voices remind him of the life he once imagines he can protect with money and power. Yet each telephone call carries enormous risk, and the authorities know patience is beginning to work in their favour. One conversation is all they need. Soon, after years of bloodshed, betrayal, and fear, the hunter who terrifies a nation is about to become the hunted man with nowhere left to hide. A light rain falls over Medellin on the afternoon of the 2nd of December, 1993. Water runs from red-tiled rooftops into narrow streets below as thunder rumbles somewhere beyond the mountains. Market traders begin packing away their stalls while neighbours hurry home beneath umbrellas. From the outside it feels like an ordinary day. Yet hidden among the crowded houses of the Los Olivos district, dozens of police officers wait in silence. Radios crackle softly. Helicopter blades beat the damp air overhead. After 16 months of searching, they believe the hunt is finally over. Inside a modest safe house, Pablo Escobar speaks to his son. His voice is calm but tired. Months of constant movement have changed him, Eve. The powerful kingpin who once commands an empire now lives behind drawn curtains, rarely stepping outside except when absolutely necessary. His beard has grown, his clothes are plain, and the confidence that once surrounds him has begun to fade. Yet he cannot resist hearing the voices of his family. Despite knowing every extra second on the telephone increases the danger. Across the city, technicians monitoring communications suddenly recognize the signal. The call lasts just long enough. Within minutes, officers race towards the neighbourhood, while helicopters circle overhead, guiding teams through the maze of tightly packed streets. Residents hear shouting outside, followed by the screech of tyres and the heavy pounding of boots against concrete staircases. Doors slam, windows close. An entire district seems to hold its breath. Realizing the police have arrived, Pablo runs. He climbs onto the roof alongside his loyal bodyguard, Alvaro de Jesus Agudelo, better known as Limon. Rain makes the tiles slippery beneath their feet as gunfire erupts around them. Bullets strike walls, chimneys and television aerials, while officers close in from every direction. For a few desperate moments, the man who spends years terrifying a nation is simply another fugitive, searching for an escape that no longer exists. The exchange of gunfire is brief. Limon falls first. Moments later, Pablo is hit as he tries to cross the rooftop. When the shooting finally stops, officers cautiously approach the body, lying motionless against the rain-soaked tiles. After years of bombings, assassinations and fear, Colombia's most wanted criminal is dead at the age of 44. Even today, one question refuses to disappear. Some believe police bullets kill Pablo Escobar. Others argue he takes his own life rather than face capture, pointing to his long-held belief that he would never allow himself to be imprisoned by his enemies. The exact truth remains uncertain, adding one final mystery to a life already surrounded by myth. News of his death spreads with astonishing speed. Across Colombia, celebrations erupt. Families who lose loved ones to cartel violence embrace one another in the streets, believing a dark chapter has finally ended. Yet elsewhere, thousands gather to mourn. Many remember the homes he builds, the football pitches he funds, and the money he gives to communities abandoned by the state. To them, Pablo remains a man who helps the poor when nobody else does. Both versions of Pablo Escobar exist side by side. One is the generous benefactor who wins loyalty through gifts and opportunity. The other is the ruthless trafficker who orders bombings, kidnappings, and murders on a scale rarely seen in modern history. Together they create one of the most complicated and disturbing legacies of the 20th century. Long after his death, Medellin begins rebuilding its reputation. The city invests in education, transport and public spaces, gradually transforming itself into one of Colombia's great success stories. Visitors now come to admire its culture, innovation, and breathtaking mountain setting, rather than fear its violence. The scars remain, but they no longer define the city. Pablo Escobar's story continues to fascinate the world through books, documentaries, and television dramas. His life is often portrayed as one of extraordinary wealth and power, but that version tells only part of the story. Behind the luxury estates, private aircraft and mountains of cash lie grieving families, shattered communities, and thousands of lives cut tragically short. As evening falls once more over the green hills surrounding Medellin, the city settles into a quieter rhythm. Church bells echo across the valley, just as they do when Pablo Escobar is a child more than 40 years earlier. The mountains remain unchanged. The coffee still grows on their slopes. Children still play football in the streets below. Only one thing is missing. The man who once believes he can own an entire nation discovers, like every ruler before him, that power is always borrowed, fear never lasts forever, and no empire, no matter how wealthy or violent, can outrun time.